The massive alien ship hung in the sky above New York, its silver surface reflecting the morning sunlight. Below, in the United Nations building, Dr. James Miller wiped his sweaty palms on his lab coat for the 10th time that hour. As Earth's leading expert in biology, he had been chosen to meet the alien delegation. "They're ready for us now," said General Roberts, opening the conference room door. The room was already half full with strange beings. Tall ones, short ones, some with scales, others with feathers, but all of them looking at the human delegation with their various types of eyes. One alien stepped forward. It stood about 7 feet tall, with blue-tinted skin and large, dark eyes. "I am Dr. Ricks," it said through a small translation device, chief researcher of the Stellar Union Scientific Division. James nodded, trying to keep his voice steady. Dr. James Miller, Earth's biological research head. He noticed Dr. Ricks had no visible mouth, just small movements in the neck area when it spoke. The meeting began smoothly enough. The aliens explained they were part of the Stellar Union, a group of 15 different space-traveling species. They had been watching Earth for the past 50 years, waiting for humans to develop certain technologies before making contact. "We find your species quite interesting," Dr. Ricks said, tilting its head in what James guessed was curiosity. "Your social behaviors are unlike anything we've seen before." Another alien, this one looking like a tall praying mantis, stepped forward. "Particularly your constant physical contact with each other. Most species only interact closely during official ceremonies or breeding seasons." James looked around the room, noticing how all the aliens kept careful distance from each other. Even those of the same species never touched or came closer than 3 feet to each other. "We would like to establish a research team," Dr. Ricks announced. "Half human scientists, half Stellar Union researchers, to study and understand each other better." General Roberts agreed quickly, and James found himself assigned as the human team leader, working directly with Dr. Ricks. Later that day, in a temporary lab setup in the UN building, James watched as Dr. Ricks observed video feeds from various human cities. The aliens seemed particularly interested in scenes of everyday life. People hugging, holding hands, couples kissing goodbye before work. "Your young stay with their parents for many years," Dr. Ricks noted, watching a family in a park. "And the parents touch them often, holding, carrying, showing affection." "Yes," James replied. "Physical contact is important for human development, especially in children." Dr. Ricks made a strange whistling sound that the translator didn't catch. In most species, the young are independent within days or weeks of birth. The idea of extended family units is unusual. As they continued their observations, James began noticing things too. How the alien researchers never sat close to each other, how they seemed almost shocked when humans casually touched each other's shoulders or shook hands. "Tomorrow," Dr. Ricks said as the day ended, "we would like to begin studying human hormone patterns. Our initial scans showed some unusual readings we don't understand." James nodded, not realizing this was the beginning of a discovery that would shake the entire Stellar Union's understanding of relationships and social bonds. As he drove home that night, James thought about how strange it was. Humans had always wondered if aliens would be too different to understand. But now it seemed the aliens were wondering the same thing about humans. He smiled, thinking about how much both sides had to learn from each other. The city lights reflected off his car window, and somewhere above, he knew the alien ship was still there, a symbol of how much the world had changed in just one day. Tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new understandings, and maybe even new friendships, even if those friendships had to be maintained at a careful 3-foot distance. Dr. Ricks stared at the test results on the floating holographic screen, then ran the tests again and again. By the 5th time, the alien scientist's blue skin had turned a pale shade of gray, a sign of extreme surprise in its species. "Dr. Miller," Ricks called out, its translator making the voice sound unusually urgent. "Could you come here, please?" James walked over to the lab station, a cup of coffee in his hand. It had been 2 weeks since first contact, and he'd gotten used to working with the alien scientists. What did you find? These hormone readings, they can't be right. Rix pointed at the screen with a long, thin finger. According to this, humans produce bonding and attraction hormones all year round. There must be an error. James took a sip of his coffee. No, that's normal for us. Why wouldn't it be? The room suddenly went quiet. All the alien researchers had stopped their work and were staring at him. But when is your mating season? Asked one of the mantis-like scientists. We don't have one, James replied. Humans can mate any time of the year. The sound that filled the room was like a collective gasp from 15 different species. One researcher dropped a glass tube, which shattered on the floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. This is impossible, Rix said, pacing back and forth. All intelligent species have specific breeding seasons. It's a mark of civilization. Controlling basic urges, focusing on development and progress. James watched as the aliens began pulling up data from their own worlds. He saw charts and graphs showing how every known species had evolved to mate only during certain times of the year, some for a few days, others for a few weeks, but always in strict cycles. But why do you mate outside of reproduction needs? Rix asked, genuine confusion in those large dark eyes. Well, James said carefully, humans mate for pleasure too, and emotional bonding. It helps couples stay close. And he couldn't finish his sentence because the room erupted in chaos. Some aliens were rapidly taking notes, others were making distressed noises their translators couldn't handle, and a few simply stood frozen in what looked like shock. Pleasure. Rix whispered the word like it was something dangerous. You mean, you enjoy the process? James nodded slowly, beginning to understand just how different humans were. Don't your species? It's a biological function, another scientist said. Like eating or sleeping. Nobody enjoys it. We do it because we must, to continue our species. The next few hours were filled with questions. The aliens wanted to know everything. How human relationships work, why they chose their partners, what role pleasure played in human society. James answered as best he could, trying to keep his explanations scientific and professional. By the end of the day, Dr. Rix had compiled a preliminary report for the Stellar Union. This changes everything we thought we knew about advanced species, the alien scientist said, looking at James with what might have been admiration. Your people never stopped evolving emotionally, while our species, we might have gone down a different path. As James prepared to leave the lab that evening, he noticed something interesting. The alien scientists, who usually kept their careful distance, were standing slightly closer to each other. They were talking in excited whispers, sharing data tablets, actually working together instead of maintaining their usual isolated workstations. Dr. Miller, Rix called out as James reached the door. Tomorrow, could you tell us more about this thing humans call romance? James smiled. Of course. As he walked to his car, he realized that humanity's so-called primitive traits, their emotions, their constant need for connection, their pursuit of pleasure, might not be weaknesses after all. In fact, they might be exactly what made humans special in the galaxy. Above the city, the stars twinkled in the night sky, and somewhere up there, the news was spreading through the Stellar Union about humanity's shocking discovery, that love and pleasure could be just as important as logic and order. The news spread through the Stellar Union like a wildfire. Within days of Dr. Rix's report about human mating habits, the alien ship above New York became the center of the biggest cultural storm the galaxy had ever seen. Look at these messages, Dr. Rix said, showing James the stream of incoming communications. The lab's main screen was filled with thousands of messages from different alien worlds. Half of them are calling humans primitive and dangerous. The other half want to learn more about human relationships. James watched as more messages poured in. Some alien scientists demanded that contact with Earth be cut off immediately, calling human behavior a threat to galactic stability. Others were fascinated, requesting more data and asking to send their own researchers. Your report has caused quite a stir in the Union Council, General Roberts said during their morning meeting. He looked tired, having spent the last 3 days in emergency talks with alien leaders. Some species are threatening to leave the Stellar Union if they continue studying human practices. Dr. Ricks's skin turned a deep blue, a sign of determination. They don't understand. This could change everything we know about social evolution. The lab had become busier than ever. Alien researchers were now studying human movies, books, and music. They were particularly interested in love songs, romance novels, and dating websites. You write millions of songs about mating. One of the mantis-like scientists asked, listening to a love song with all 4 of its ears twitching. We only have practical instruction manuals for breeding season. Another researcher was watching a romantic comedy, looking confused. They spend so much time trying to attract a mate, even when it's not breeding season. How do they get any work done? James tried his best to explain. Love and attraction are part of our daily lives. They don't stop us from working or advancing. If anything, they motivate us to do better, to be better. The biggest shock came when Dr. Ricks discovered human marriage records. You mean these pairs stay together even after successful breeding? For their entire lives? Sometimes, James said, when people fall in love, they often want to stay together. This concept of falling in love caused another wave of confusion through the alien scientists. In their worlds, pairs came together only during breeding season, guided by biological signals and careful selection by community leaders. The idea of choosing a partner based on emotional connection was completely foreign. But something unexpected was happening. As the alien researchers spent more time studying humans, they began showing subtle changes. James noticed how they started standing closer together during meetings. Some even began expressing personal opinions instead of just scientific facts. One day, a young alien researcher named Lix, a junior assistant to Dr. Ricks, caused a scandal by asking another researcher to share mealtime together, just the 2 of them. The request shocked the other aliens. Sharing meals was strictly a group activity in their culture. Do you see what you've started? Dr. Ricks said to James, but there was no anger in the alien's voice. If anything, it sounded like curiosity, maybe even excitement. Reports came in from the alien ship that younger crew members were secretly watching human romance movies. Some had even started writing their own stories about emotional connections, sharing them in hidden message groups. The old ways aren't the only ways, Dr. Ricks said during a heated debate with other senior researchers. Look at humans. They've built an advanced civilization while maintaining their capacity for pleasure and emotional bonds. Maybe we've been wrong about what makes a species truly evolved. As the day ended, James found a small note on his desk. Actual paper, which aliens never used. It was from Lix. Thank you for teaching us that there's more to life than just existing. Some of us have always felt there was something missing. Now we know what it was. James carefully folded the note and put it in his pocket. Above New York, more alien ships were arriving, filled with researchers eager to study humanity's shocking discovery. But perhaps the real discovery wasn't just about how humans were different. It was about how all species, deep down, shared a need for connection. They had just forgotten it along the way. The Joint Human-Alien Research Lab had grown 3 times larger over the past month. New rooms were added to study different aspects of human relationships, and teams of scientists from both Earth and the Stellar Union worked together to understand how humans had evolved so differently. Dr. Ricks stood in front of a large screen showing human brain scans. These patterns are amazing, the alien scientist said, pointing at the colorful images. When humans see their chosen partners, their brains light up in the same areas that respond to rewards and happiness. James nodded, drinking his morning coffee. We call it being in love. It's one of our strongest emotions. But here's what's truly fascinating. Ricks continued, switching to a new set of scans. These same brain patterns appear when humans create art, music, or solve complex problems. Your ability to feel pleasure and form bonds somehow connects to creativity and problem-solving. The research team had made several breakthrough discoveries. They found that human children raised with loving physical contact were better at learning and socializing. Adults in happy relationships showed better work performance and lived longer. "Look at this," said one of the younger alien researchers, showing data from human history. Many of humanity's greatest achievements happened because someone wanted to impress a potential mate or make their partner's life better. Examples filled the screens: architects building beautiful houses for their loved ones, scientists working to cure diseases that affected their partners, artists creating masterpieces inspired by love, and engineers inventing new technologies to connect people. Dr. Ricks was particularly interested in how human settlements had developed. "Other species build purely for function," the alien explained. "But humans, you add beauty to your buildings. You create parks for couples to walk in. You design homes for families to live together." The research showed something else surprising. Humans weren't actually less advanced because of their emotions. They had developed differently. While other species focused on controlling their natural instincts, humans had learned to use their feelings as a strength. "It's like two different paths of evolution," James explained to a group of alien scientists. "You chose to suppress emotions for efficiency. We chose to embrace them and learn from them." The most exciting discovery came when the team studied human problem-solving methods. Unlike the logical, step-by-step approach of alien species, humans often used emotional intelligence and creative thinking to find solutions. "Humans can look at a problem and feel the answer," Dr. Ricks said, sounding amazed. "You call it intuition or gut feeling. We never knew such things were possible." One afternoon, something unprecedented happened. During a test of human empathy, one of the alien researchers started showing similar brain patterns to humans. They had been studying human relationships so closely that they were beginning to develop new neural pathways. "It's like we're waking up," the young researcher said, touching their head in wonder. "There are all these feelings we never knew we could have." Dr. Ricks spent hours analyzing this development. "Our species didn't lose the ability to feel pleasure and form bonds," the alien concluded. "We just buried it so deep under logic and rules that we forgot it was there." The research paper they prepared was revolutionary. It showed that emotional connections weren't a weakness, but a different kind of strength. Humans had proved that a species could be both technologically advanced and emotionally developed. "Perhaps," Dr. Ricks said to James as they finished the day's work, "the true measure of civilization isn't how well we control our feelings, but how well we understand and use them." As James packed up his notes, he saw two alien researchers sharing a meal together in the break room, something that would have been unthinkable a month ago. They weren't just studying human behavior anymore. They were learning to rediscover their own capacity for connection. Above the lab, the night sky was filled with more alien ships than ever, each bringing new researchers eager to understand humanity's unique path. But now, they weren't just studying humans. They were learning from them, discovering that there might be more than one way to reach the stars. 3 months after first contact, the changes in alien society could no longer be ignored. What had started as a scientific study of human relationships had turned into something much bigger. Dr. Ricks walked into the lab one morning looking troubled. The alien's skin had a grayish tint, showing worry. "Have you seen the latest reports from our homeworlds?" Ricks asked James, turning on the main screen. The screen filled with images from different alien planets. Young aliens were gathering in groups, something they had never done before. They were watching human movies together, sharing meals, and even, most shockingly, holding hands. "They're calling it the human wave," Ricks explained. "The younger generation is rejecting our traditional ways. They want to experience emotions like humans do." James watched as more reports came in. On one planet, young aliens had organized a dating event based on human customs. On another, they had started writing love poems. Some were even requesting permission to live together in pairs, like human couples. "The Council of Elders is furious," Rick said. "They say we've been infected by human ideas, that our society will collapse if we allow these changes." The lab's younger alien researchers weren't hiding their support for these changes. Many had started showing their own signs of emotional development. They laughed at jokes, showed excitement about discoveries, and formed friendships, all things that were once considered primitive behaviors. "Look at this," one young researcher said, showing James a message from their home world. Groups of aliens had started meeting in secret to share stories about emotions and relationships. They called themselves Friends of Earth, but not everyone was happy about these changes. Conservative leaders in the Stellar Union were demanding an end to all human contact. They claimed that human emotions were spreading like a disease through their carefully ordered societies. "They don't understand," said Lix, the young researcher who had first dared to ask another alien to share a private meal. "We're not becoming worse. We're becoming whole." Dr. Rix was caught in the middle. As a senior scientist, the alien was expected to support traditional views. But after months of studying humans, Rix had also started to change. The alien now showed curiosity, excitement, and even friendship, especially towards James. Yesterday, Rix confided to James, "I found myself humming a human love song." Me, the chief researcher who once wrote papers about the superiority of emotional control. The situation reached a turning point when a group of young aliens on the research ship decided to hold a human-style party. They decorated a room, played Earth music, and actually danced together. When the ship's leaders discovered this, they were horrified. "Don't they see what's happening?" an angry elder scientist demanded during an emergency meeting. "These human practices will destroy thousands of years of perfect order." But James noticed something interesting. Even as the elders spoke against human influence, they showed more emotion than ever before. Passion in their voice, fire in their eyes. They were proving their own point wrong without realizing it. Later that day, Dr. Rix made a bold decision. The aliens sent a personal message to the Stellar Union Council, defending the changes they were seeing. "For too long, we thought advancement meant suppressing our natural needs for connection," Rix wrote. "But humans have shown us that emotions and progress can go hand in hand. Maybe it's time to admit that our perfect order wasn't so perfect after all." As the message was sent, James watched a group of young aliens in the lab sharing pictures of their families back home, something they had never done before. They were talking about their hopes, their fears, and their dreams. "We can't stop this, can we?" Rix asked, standing beside James. "Would you want to?" James replied. The alien scientist's skin turned a new color, one James had never seen before. Later, he learned it was the color of hope. Above them, the stars continued to shine, watching as a quiet revolution spread through the galaxy. A revolution not of weapons or violence, but of something much more powerful, the simple human ability to feel, to connect, and to love. The emergency alarms in the research lab went off at exactly 3:47 p.m. Earth time. Red lights flashed as General Roberts rushed into the main research area, his face grim. "The Stellar Union Council has voted," he announced to the stunned room of human and alien scientists. "They're considering cutting all contact with Earth. They say we're too dangerous to the stability of their civilization." Dr. Rix's skin turned almost white with shock. "They can't do this. We're making incredible discoveries here." But the situation was serious. On the main screen, they could see dozens of alien ships preparing to leave Earth's orbit. The conservative faction had won a major victory in the Council, declaring human emotions a galaxy-wide threat. "They're calling it emotional contamination," James read from the official notice. "Any alien who has had contact with humans must go through emotional purification when they return home." The lab erupted in chaos. The younger alien researchers were refusing to leave, saying they wouldn't give up their new understanding of feelings and connections. Some were even crying. something unheard of in their species before human contact. "We have 48 hours, General Roberts said. After that, Earth will be marked as a restricted planet. No contact allowed." Dr. Ricks paced the lab, thinking hard. There must be something we can do. Some way to prove that emotions aren't destroying us. James noticed that even in this crisis, the changes in the aliens were clear. Instead of calmly accepting the Council's decision as they would have done before, they were fighting back. They were showing passion, determination, and loyalty to their human friends. "Wait," James said suddenly. "What if we could prove that emotions make species stronger, not weaker?" Working through the night, the team gathered all their research data. They showed how humans had built great civilizations while keeping their emotions. They proved that emotional connections had helped humans solve problems in unique ways. But their most powerful evidence came from the aliens themselves. "Look at us," Lick said, recording a message for the Council. "Since we started feeling emotions, we've made more scientific discoveries than ever before. We work better together. We think in new ways." Dr. Ricks found ancient records that changed everything. "Our species weren't always this cold," the alien announced. "We once had emotions too. Our ancestors chose to suppress them, thinking it would make us stronger. But what if they were wrong?" As the deadline got closer, more evidence appeared. Other alien scientists admitted they had been hiding their feelings for years, afraid of being seen as weak. Some shared secret research showing that forced emotional control was actually hurting their species. With just 6 hours left, Dr. Ricks made a bold move. The alien called for an emergency broadcast to all Stellar Union worlds. "Look at what we've learned from humans," Ricks said, standing proudly before the cameras. "They love, they feel, they connect, and they've reached the stars just like us. Their emotions didn't stop their progress. Instead, their emotions gave them strength we never knew was possible." The broadcast showed scenes from the lab. Aliens and humans working together, sharing ideas, supporting each other. It showed the amazing discoveries they had made. But most importantly, it showed how the aliens had grown and changed. "If you cut off Earth," Ricks continued, "you're not protecting our civilization. You're denying our chance to become better, to be complete. You're afraid of humans. I'm not afraid. I'm grateful. They've helped us remember who we really are." As Ricks spoke, something amazing happened. Across the galaxy, millions of aliens started sharing their own stories. They talked about hidden feelings, secret hopes, and dreams they were finally brave enough to share. With just 1 hour left on the deadline, the Council called an emergency session. The fate of Earth's connection to the galaxy hung in the balance. James and Dr. Ricks stood together, watching the Council chamber's live feed. Without thinking, the alien reached out and took James's hand. The first time any alien had made such a gesture. "Whatever happens," Ricks said softly, "they can't take away what we've learned." Above Earth, the ships waited, their engines ready. The next hour would decide not just Earth's future, but the emotional future of an entire galaxy. The Stellar Union Council's decision came just as the sun was rising over New York. The huge screens in the research lab showed hundreds of council members from different species, all gathered for the historic vote. After reviewing all evidence, the council leader announced, "We have reached a conclusion. The motion to isolate Earth has been rejected." The lab erupted in cheers. Humans hugged each other while alien scientists did their own versions of celebration. Some glowing with bright colors, others making musical sounds with their bodies. But the council wasn't finished. Furthermore, the leader continued, "We have decided to create a new division within the Stellar Union, the Department of Emotional Intelligence and Cultural Exchange." Dr. Ricks's skin turned bright blue with joy. The alien turned to James, eyes shining with what could only be described as happiness. "We did it." The council's decision changed everything. Instead of trying to suppress the human wave of emotional expression, they would now study and understand it. The evidence had been too strong to ignore. Emotions, when properly understood, made species stronger, not weaker. Our first task, Dr. Ricks announced to the lab team, is to help species remember their own emotional heritage. Every race in the stellar union once had feelings like humans. We just forgot how to use them. The changes happened quickly. Across the galaxy, alien societies began embracing their rediscovered emotions. Young aliens no longer had to hide their feelings. Some species even started bringing back old traditions of singing, dancing, and storytelling that had been banned for generations. In the lab, James watched as his alien colleagues grew more comfortable with their emotions each day. They laughed at jokes, showed excitement about discoveries, and weren't afraid to show sadness when experiments failed. One morning, about a month after the council's decision, Lix came running into the lab with big news. "Look at this." The young alien activated the main screen, showing images from their homeworld. Aliens were gathering in groups, sharing meals, and even holding public ceremonies for pairs who wanted to stay together permanently. "They're called bonding ceremonies," Lix explained proudly. "Like human weddings, but in our own way." Dr. Ricks had been appointed as the head of the new department. The alien now traveled between worlds, helping different species find their own balance between logic and emotion. "Every species is different," Ricks would say. "We don't all need to be like humans. We just need to be true to ourselves." The research lab became the center for this new understanding. Aliens from across the galaxy came to learn how humans had maintained their emotional connections while building an advanced civilization. Many were surprised to find that feelings didn't make humans weak. Instead, emotions gave them strength, creativity, and resilience. 1 year after first contact, the lab held a special celebration. Humans and aliens gathered together, sharing food, stories, and friendship. There was even music, both human songs and the newly rediscovered songs of various alien species. "Did you ever think it would turn out like this?" James asked Dr. Ricks as they watched the celebration. "Never," Ricks replied, the alien skin showing the new color they had discovered, the color of contentment. "We thought we were coming to study a primitive species. Instead, you taught us how to be whole again." Across the room, young aliens were trying to dance to human music, while humans attempted to sing alien songs. It wasn't perfect, but it was genuine. Real connections were being made, bridging gaps between species that once seemed impossible to cross. The final proof of change came when the Stellar Union updated its definition of advanced civilization. The new definition read, "A truly advanced species is one that has mastered both the physical world and the emotional one, finding strength in both logic and feeling." As the celebration continued, James looked out the window at the night sky. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if they too were celebrating this new understanding. Humanity's shocking discovery, the ability to feel, to love, to connect, hadn't just changed Earth's place in the galaxy. It had changed the galaxy itself. And somewhere out there, on distant worlds, aliens were learning to smile again.